Hi, my name is Arthur Kelly, and welcome to my Interpersonal Communication Project. Human Services 508 Studies in Interpersonal Communication with Professor Cornwell. Next page. Today we will define what is communication and listening. We will identify my overarching goal for my life, describe how my background and behavioral blend have influenced my conversation, positively and negatively. We will define the potential barriers in my interpersonal context and how I deal with each one. We will also identify and provide solutions to noise pollution, both internal and external. And finally, we will come up with a plan of action with my overarching goal in mind to improve my interpersonal communication. Next slide. Communication. Stewart says communication is continuous, complex, collaborative process of verbal and nonverbal meaning making. I often say communication eliminates the fear of the unknown. Next slide. Stewart says listening is the process of receiving, constructing meaning form, and responding to spoken and or nonverbal messages. Do you hear what I hear? Burley and Allen conclude that listening is used far more than reading and writing combined. Listening goes beyond awareness. Next slide. My overarching goals are identify who I am, identify how others perceive me, improve my communication and listening skills, enlarge my conversations, and become a better listener. Next slide. My behavioral blend, IC, segmented as in interactive or active people oriented. I C, melancholy, careful, or passive, task oriented. The I type is someone who is inspiring and influential to their peers. The C type is the behavioral blend or personality that is cautious and always calculating. Next slide. Uniquely you. I'm a strong communicator. Peterson makes a wonderful statement that I believe defined me for a period in my life. He said, listening is a waste of time unless it gets people to agree with me or do what I want them to do. I had this personification for a long period in my life, but I think I'm working on that. Next slide. Some of the positive influence of my behavioral blend are I am strategic in everything that I do. I'm considered a role model and a good influence on my peers. Strong speaker, even with my list. I calculate multiple outcomes in my conversation, and I listen objectively. Next slide. Some of the negative influences are this is my boxer lane and I'll stay in it if I want to. I do not like to try new things. If I move to Asia, I'll probably go hungry. Sometimes I come off as arrogant. Come on now. Pessimistic, over optimistic. I can be a little OCD. I pay attention to detail. I'm over analytical. Is that something on your shirt? Next slide. Some of the potential barriers. A listening barrier exists when someone hears what they want to hear, not what is said. Burley and Allen. Taking on too many tasks. Ritual listening. Biased. Ready to argue my point. Listening for errors. All barriers that can occur. Other barriers. Interrupting. I tend to interject my thoughts without allowing someone to finish. A way to counteract that is I will be more empathetic and sensitive to the characteristics of the talker. Also, listening with walls will turn into listening without walls. I will eliminate my reasoning when someone else is giving their thoughts. We shall overcome. Next slide. Noise pollution. Internal noises. Being distracted by things that personally just bother you. Some of the external noises. the things that you cannot control. Internal noise pollution can be considered as physical. To counteract that, I can make sure that I eat 3 meals a day, get a good night's sleep, bias listening, hearing what I want to hear, not what is actually said. I can counteract that by just simply listening. Next slide. Clearing the agenda. Preventing my mind from wondering. I wonder what we're going to eat for dinner. Next slide. External noise pollution. Talkers' mannerisms. Teeth smacking while talking. Don't you hate that? Monotone voice. I'm sorry, can you speak up please? Watching the clock. Is it time to go yet? Next slide. Loud noises or a lot of movement. Is that a baby crying? Can somebody please give them a pacifier? Next slide. Ozone pollution solutions. Tongue twister. I will have a more positive behavior towards the talker. Eliminate my feelings and focus on their feelings. Focus on what they are saying, not what they are doing. Consider how the talker or speaker feels when I give strange or defensive nonverbal cues. Next slide. My plan of action. As a basketball coach, I have been influenced, and I know you need a plan of action whenever you step on the court. And I can do that by mindful listening. Stewart says, mindful listeners receive the spoken word accurately, interpret the whole message in an unbiased way. I can also concentrate on listening actively in every discussion. I have to understand that giving feedback is not only the way to be engaged. Being attentive is the key to having a good conversation. And look for the good and not the bad. Burley and Allen says, when we ignore the importance of listening, we do a disservice to the value of listening. Next slide. Minimize negative barriers. Practice empathetic listening. My overarching goal is to become a level 1 listener, less ritual listening. I can be less critical and less judgmental. If there's a stain on the talker's shirt, then it's a part of his or her outfit. That'll be my response. Next slide. I can also focus. The speaker will have my full undivided attention. I can encourage. Great job. I will engage the speaker to give them a sense of confidence and self-gratification. And then I also will reflect. I will paraphrase and clarify what I have gained from the presentation to make sure that we are on the same page. Next slide. In conclusion, I believe that Stewart was right. The more you concentrate on the process, the more positive will be the outcome. My overarching goal is to become a better listener in my home, at my job, and to my peers. My wife says I'm doing a good job. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation today. I hope that you have a happy holidays. Stay safe. God bless. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.